Plumbing is not truly my job, and though I hate doing it, I had to if I wanted to find out the truth that was eating me alive. Last summer, when I went to my girlfriend's house for a surprise visit, I noticed something different about her. She seemed anxious and tired, and not very happy upon seeing me, which made me wonder if there was some problem with her brother again. When I asked her about it, she made up an excuse by saying it's because I'm on my period. But I knew she was lying. I kept track of her cycle every month, so I knew she wasn't supposed to get her period for the next 10 days. I didn't say anything though. Weirder was that she didn't let me in her bedroom and sent me back when I was genuinely worried about her. I wondered if she was sick or had some other problem. I tried to call her on my way back, but the weird thing was she had turned off her number. Never in our 2 years of relationship had I ever remembered her phone turned off. She had a habit of always remembering to charge her phone, so if she didn't, that meant something was serious. I thought I should wait until she calmed down and contacted me on her own, but with each passing minute, I only grew anxious. As evening approached, I ended up calling her number more than 30 times. I couldn't take it anymore, so I decided to check on her in the morning. As soon as the sun announced the beginning of a new day, I rushed to her house as fast as I could, and when I got there, I felt something was wrong. The door seemed locked from the outside, and the car wasn't on the driveway either, where I had often seen it. I had a spare key and had brought it, so I unlocked the house and went in. But as I entered, I was staggered to see the place empty. There was no furniture or any other stuff, which meant she had moved out. I tried calling her number once more, but she didn't answer. For the next few months, I did my best to find her, but to my dismay, nothing worked in my favor. I was really desperate to find her, and that was probably why I listened when one of my friends told me that if I worked as a plumber and went from one house to another, I might be able to find a clue. Instead of going back to my apartment, I brought a few of my stuff and started living at her place, hoping to find something. I would take all the plumbing work, and after about a month, I even started working at nearby towns to see if I could get a word about her. One day, I received a job at a house that was just a few blocks away from Dana's house. Initially, I didn't want to accept it since I knew there was no way she would be hiding nearby, but I still accepted it. I grabbed my toolbox and went to check on the sink pipe that they said was having some problems. The owner had left the house and told me that they would be back shortly and I could just leave the house after finishing up my work. As I was working, I heard a sound coming through the tap. It was very faint, but I could tell someone was whispering something, almost as if they were spelling the word help. I immediately put my ear over, and now the whisper was somewhat clear. And as I heard it, an unpleasant feeling formed in my gut. For some reason, the voice felt awfully familiar, as if it was Dana's. Before I could take any sort of action, the front door swung open and the owner of the house walked in. She asked if the work was done, and since I didn't want to alert her, I told her it would take a few minutes. The woman sat there and watched me fixing her sink pipe without giving me a chance to act upon my suspicion. However, I had made up my mind that I wasn't going to let her go like this. Even if the person from the whisper source wasn't my girlfriend, I was still going to make sure to find out who or what it was. So once I got out of that house, I alerted the police. When the police went to check the premises, the woman denied anything of such sort. But as I had told them about the whispers, they checked the pipe, and it turned out I was right. The pipes were connected to a hidden room in her house, and when they found it, they found 2 people locked inside. Though I was terrified for my girlfriend who was among those 2, tied to a rope like a dog, I was more shocked to find the other person. I had seen him once outside Dana's workplace. She introduced him as her colleague, so I didn't pay much attention to it. But finding them locked together at a stranger's house sure did ring some bells in my mind. Soon after I found out what it was. The day I gave her a surprise visit, turned out he was at the house. And it wasn't just him. It was the woman kidnapper who was actually the man's wife there too. She had them at gunpoint after finding them in bed together. When she was confessing, I couldn't help but sympathize with her. She said she was nothing but faithful to her husband, complying with any and every demand, but when she saw him cheating on her, she just lost it. I don't blame her. I would have done the same if I were in her shoes. Probably worse. The woman then directed them to her house while holding them at gunpoint and locked them up. After that, she shipped all of Dana's stuff to a different location, so others think she moved out. If it wasn't for me, no one would have ever found out. I know I should have felt proud of saving my girlfriend, who couldn't even make eye contact with me now, but I wasn't. Not after finding out the truth. There's nothing I regret more than freeing the damn cheater out of her misery. Damn it. Now I can't even act my revenge because the police would suspect me before anyone else.
Hey guys, thanks so much for all the support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please feel free to do so. I went to beauty school just after high school, so it's just learning what it is like to be an adult, work, go to school, and socialize at the same time. If you've ever gone to beauty school, you know the hours are pretty lengthy, and it's a lot of work in a short amount of time. You also know that you're mostly crammed with a lot of women of different ages and a few boys if there's a straight man in school, and he's even mildly attractive, obviously considering you're attracted to that type of person. Most women that score just so at all because it's the only male person we are seeing during most of our weeks. That takes me to Dave. A few years older than me, tall, drives a Ducati to school, mysterious and handsome. Every girl was always putting a little extra makeup, turning their hips towards him, flirting when he was around. He was cute, quiet, and always knew what to say. I was as interested in catching his eye till he randomly asked me to meet up with him for a bite one day after school. I was single, needing to experience dating for the first time, and it didn't seem that bad to hang out with. Things started off very sweet and genuine. He'd sent good night texts, joke with me at school, and even genuinely seemed like he wanted to hang out more and more. We'd go to bars, and he knew everyone, so I could just get right in. I was underage at the time. We go eat, see shows to step drink. I feel like I was starting to feel like an adult enjoying the life and being wooed by a handsome, slightly older man. We drove around on his bike. He'd take me to nice, quiet dinners, always offered to pay, and even didn't little things like hold his arm out when I was walking downstairs or off a curb. I'd never experienced this type of gentleman before. But as quickly as the sweet dates came, so did a very weird, calculated, and controlling behavior. He would start to ask why I didn't smile with my teeth. Was it because I was embarrassed at myself? He would sit behind me working at school and taught me about how slow I was. He'd say things like, "Don't sit like that," or "say things that way. That's not what ladies do, and I'm a lady, right? Don't wear that lipstick, it's trashy." Butts, I guess. Maybe I was being inappropriate. Maybe he's right. I should act more like an adult and a child. Be better at school. Look more like an adult. He brought me to his house one night, a place he rented a room from. Suddenly, This stoic Edward Cullen type turned into a person I didn't recognize. Outside of the random mood shift, his room was filled with clothing and garbage like old Gatorade bottles filling the floors. There was a TV and a bed. Of all the things I could really make out in the room, he brushed dirt off his bed for me to sit down. I hung out for a while, and he oddly confessed he never brushed his teeth. Okay, well, looking at this room, I could believe that. He also mentioned that he just bought new clothes when he needed them and never washed. The dirty ones just left them there. This is all in the first 2 or 3 weeks. Kind of a red flag if you asked me. The lights were off at one point, and we're watching a show, and I see a light like a cell phone right outside the window behind the TV. I jump and get his attention, but he had to have seen. He brushes it off, saying it must be a roommate though. I notice he's texting someone at the same time. Let it go for the night. Eventually go home, but so feel uncomfortable. When the phone calls started happening in the stories of his ex, they lived together. She was 10 years older than him and had a 6-year-old kid. She was crazy. If he and I would hang out, I'd suddenly start getting calls from an unknown number. The minute I walked in my door, they would ring to my voicemail. Got them. And no one would say a word till the message ran out of time. They'd happen every 10 minutes for 3 or so hours. I asked him about this, if it was him, and he said it may just be his crazy ex. But how would she have my number? He'd say, well, I have to give her some of her things, and she stole my phone at one point. Must have taken your number. So the gentlemanly dates would happen, and the gifts, sending roses and coffee to my work, showing up with a massage and spa packages every week. We still saw each other at beauty school, almost alien. He'd be kind, but it was always hush-hush until it was outside of school. I was torn. This person, lying. Or is this the kind of person to want to date me? Maybe he just has some flaws and a crazy ex. Then the texts and Facebook messages started coming, clarifying it was her. He told me about your messed up life and secrets you've told him. I know he just saw you. I know you were at his house. I was outside his window looking in. Your red dress was nice. He laughs about you. Poor you. Just a stupid little girl. And stuff like that over and over. I block her. Then she'd have friends send me the same BS. She freaked me out, and he always denied it and apologized for her behavior. Then the word Daisy wouldn't show up for school, and he would text me during the day saying they were together, sending pictures of him. I tried to confront him, but he always denied having anything to do with her and repeating that she wanted to ruin his life. And then she started going to my work, telling my coworker she was my friend and would color things on the kids menu, like my name plus Dave, art, her, and tell them she wanted me to have it. She'd send me a random picture of him in a booth at my work, and I put the pieces together when I got there and got her notes, asking my coworkers where she was sitting and what she looked like. It was gross and embarrassing, let alone scary. My car was broken into at school, and nothing was taken from it, but a bill that had my address on it. Then was so scared. I came home at any point in time, and she started calling me over and over as soon as I closed the door behind me. I felt trapped. She would call my work and school saying she was my mom and try to get more info on me, or call them as a customer saying to get me fired. My roommates finally kicked me out because they were rightfully freaked out. So I turned to the police. They put me in contact with a detective who I handled all of the calls, texts, and messages, plus notes she left in my work. I never answered the phone or responded to a single message from her. I had hundreds of calls, texts for at least a month. They came in every day from the same number. I never blocked that number after the first few were blocked, so I could keep a log of all the attempts. Plus, I have to keep a journal of every incident leading up to me coming to the police just in case. I watched a lot of crime documentaries. He told me that there was nothing he could do to trace the number back to a specific person, and since she hadn't threatened my physical safety, his hands were tied. The very next day, he calls me in, he's furious, telling me he can't help me if I'm harassing her back. I was confused, and when I asked what he meant, he said, "You're calling a mother non-stop throughout the night, terrifying her and her kid." But it was a 20-year-old, and she was 36. Of course he's going to believe the adult, but I never called her. He asked me to come to his office and show me his evidence he has against me. She forged him tons of texts, saying things like, "Well, I can't really say them here, but they were just toxic," which is full of malice, and I just broke down. I would never say some of the things that she had said that I said, and I know I didn't send these tons of texts, especially overnight when I had school the next day. He didn't believe me and completely dismissed me. He ultimately turned against me and was now on her side, and this was crushing. I broke things off for good with David, basically told him to screw off. We still had to go to school together, and he was terrible. I embarrassed myself in front of my friends defending him so long. My work, my school, who I had to beg to make sure this girl didn't come around again, and a detective who ultimately didn't believe a word I said just to get some peace. My friends were tired of seeing me scared, stressed, and constantly talking about this weird situation happening to me. I was over it all. She finally left me alone once I moved, got a new car, a new phone, deleted social media. But it still freaks me out that we all live in the same town. She messaged me a few years ago from a different account when I was back on social media, and said she was sorry that she was manipulated by Dave and that they did this to too many girls. This was disturbing and gut-wrenching to me, to the mother of a 6-year-old, really have nothing better to do than play messed up mind games with a sociopath, maybe two sociopaths together.
I think I'm losing my mind because I have been unable to control my rage for the past few days. Though I was supposed to get married 3 days ago, I am on the run because of something I couldn't control. It all started when I was getting ready for the ceremony, and I heard those two bastards say something inappropriate and personal about Mia. They were her friends, and she always hung out with them, so there was no way what they said could be wrong. It simply had one explanation. She did those things they were discussing among themselves. I clenched my fists to calm myself, but it wasn't working. I worked hard these past few months to control my blind rage, but hearing about her cheating on me made it all go to waste. I wanted to ask her if what they said was true, hoping for her to deny them, but as I walked to her chambers, I found the same guys laughing and talking to her. She was making a fool out of me. Did she think I was this gullible? Who knows if that child in her womb was even mine? All of a sudden, I felt disgusted with her. I had to pay them back for humiliating me like this, so I waited for those two guys to go someplace quiet. Till then, I decided to stand by. But the moment I saw Mia's parents talking to them, I could feel my eyes burning with exasperation. Were they all involved in this? This thought was like oil in my fury. There was no way I would wait for the right moment anymore. so I decided to act. "Hey guys, do you mind helping me with something?" I asked, my fist still clenched, but a forced smile was on my face. "Yeah, man, what is it?" the one in the blue suit asked. They probably thought I was nervous and couldn't guess what was coming. "It's something I planned for Mia, but I don't want anything to go wrong because it's for after the wedding ceremony. So you guys need to come with me," I said, trying to be as convincing as possible. "Sure," they said in sync and started following me. I led them to the closed gift room, and the moment they entered, I took out the screwdrivers from my pocket that I grabbed from the man who was here to fix lighting, and before they could turn back, I stuck them on the side of their heads. They couldn't even scream as their eyes widened before they dropped dead instantly, without even realizing what happened to them. I heard a gasp and turned around, only to find Mia's cousin Lily. As she was about to scream, I put my palm over her mouth and pulled her inside, only to stab her in the neck. I left her with the other two, fixed my clothes, and headed to Mia's chambers. She was sitting in white, looking stunning, and my heart wavered momentarily. But realizing how this striking beauty cheated on me without a heartbeat fumed me. I started walking toward her, but a couple of giggling girls stopped me before I could enter. "You can't go in there. You aren't allowed to meet her till the ceremony." After saying that, they dragged me to where the ceremony was to commence. I wanted to stop their giggling immediately, but it would attract too much attention, so I played along. I stood at the altar waiting for her arrival as the groomsmen stood beside me. It felt like they were taking forever to bring her here. Suddenly the song started, and with exasperation, I glanced at the end of the aisle when I saw her entering with a smile, only to drop my jaw in awe. I nervously tugged at my tie without even realizing it. She approached me with a look in her eyes that I believed was love. I remembered what it was that made me fall for her. That beaming twinkle on her lips made my heart race, and those deep, innocent eyes made me want to drown in them for all eternity. I couldn't see her properly before, but she looked ethereal in that dress. Her hair pulled back in complex braids to form an intricate design around her face. A thought crossed my mind that maybe I could forgive her this once. Perhaps I could ask her later if what those men said was true. I took a deep breath and picked up the box containing her ring. I grabbed her soft little hands and put it on that fragile finger. It was then her turn to put a ring on my finger. Her light touch sent multiple jolts down my body. My eyes filled with tears as I heard her say her vows. I couldn't believe it. Such sincere words with such a gorgeous yet deceiver's mouth. Those men's words echoed in my ears as I realized I had already once been deceived by this enchantress. My mind started to spin, and I couldn't control it any longer. I put my right hand inside my pocket, grabbed the screwdriver still in there, and as she leaned for a kiss after saying "I do," I took it out and stabbed it in her heart. Multiple gasps in horror followed my action, but my eyes were stuck inside those green ones that widened in disbelief. I felt something stinging my heart as I saw her white dress turning red. Tears began streaming down my face as I heard her ask why as she stumbled. I didn't let her fall and held her in my arms as her body gave up. Screams erupted all over the corners while I only focused on her as I replied, "Because you cheated." My voice quivered. I didn't expect the reaction she gave me as she took her last fading breaths. It tore my heart apart in 1,000 pieces as I realized I couldn't see her anymore. That was when I heard someone scream her name. I turned to see another girl with a physique similar to my Mia running toward the source of the voice. I felt my heart sinking as I realized what just happened. It wasn't my Mia who was unfaithful. My world came crashing down my head as I realized I destroyed everything with my own hands due to my insecurity and lack of faith in her. I hugged her lifeless body tightly and screamed her name, calling out for her. But she didn't respond. She was gone. That was when I heard someone say they had called 911, and I realized I couldn't stay here. I glanced at my love for the last time before standing up and running out of the wedding hall. Everyone was so panicked that they didn't even realize I was gone. I've been hiding in these woods since then, and I cannot help but feel anger at everything. I need to go to her. Yes, that would be the only possible salvation and way to reunite with her. Now, all I need to do is find that valley.